When doing home renovation projects, things can get expensive very quickly. So one of the options you have is to do things yourself. One of these things that I'll be covering today is making floor treads for staircases. Now, when you do floor treads, you can use anything from new lumber and old lumber. In this situation, I'll be using old lumber and how to make it look new. So to start off with, I'm going to show you an example of what you would see from old lumber. It would look something like this. And this is out of a barn that was used for the rafters. It has anything from nails and other sorts of foreign pieces in it, and that's a problem for the machinery you'll be using, so you have to make sure that it's clear of all debris and it's just the piece of wood. So the next thing that you're going to have to do is make sure you have all the equipment. First off, you're going to need a router, a sander. You also are going to need stain, polyurethane, and sanding sealer, along with a rag, a brush, varying forms of sandpaper, which I'll talk about later. And for jobs that you can have other people do, you can have them do the bandsaw usage, and they can also do the planing. But if you have them yourself, feel free to do that. So the first thing that you're going to have to do is, from turning that old piece of lumber, you're going to have to change it and use a bandsaw. Now the bandsaw is going to make sure everything's level and that it's the right size for your stairs, so you have the same rise and run consistently up the entire staircase. Now from the old piece, it's going to change to look something like this, and you're going to get some of the original color out of a piece of wood without the age. And it's still very rough, so you're going to have to treat it, but you have that final size already. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to use the router. Now the router, as you could have seen, is that it takes the corners out of it. It's a 1/2-inch router and makes sure not only that people don't get slivers when they're walking up the stairs, but that it breaks less. So there isn't those corners that people can hit and knock off, and it makes it a better piece of material. After you do that, the next thing you're going to have to do is put it through the planer, and when somebody else is done with that, or you've done that, you're going to start sanding. Now with sanding, you're going to start at something that's called 100 grit. Now 100 grit takes off more material when you're running it, and then you're going to go to something called 220 grit, and this is all you can use through your hand sander. Once you get down to 220, it's going to be pretty smooth, and you're going to almost be ready to do the staining. So once you have it all sanded down and it's to your liking, you start with the rag and you put 2 coats of stain on it. Now it can be any color you want. This is just an example that we had of Minwax, but it just has to match the rest of your woodwork. So after you've done that, you put 2 coats of that on. You move to the floor polyurethane. Now it's floor polyurethane because it has to be more durable because people are walking on it. It's not like the casing you would see on a door or anything, because that's up in the air and people don't touch it normally. But this one, there's going to be people moving on it, and there's going to be a lot of heavy usage. So you use floor polyurethane and you use sanding sealer. Now you're going to put 2 coats of each on the floor tread, and after you're completely done with all of that, your floor tread will be ready to go. But just to make sure that you've got everything done, it has to be the same cut and length as well as width and height, just to make sure that when you're walking up and down the stair treads that they feel the same. Now the rise and run doesn't seem like a big deal, but if they aren't the same, people will notice when they're walking up and down your staircase. So other than that, we have a finished piece of barnwood that we can make into a stair tread, and it's definitely going to be a lot cheaper than having somebody else either do it for you or buying stair treads that are already made.